relations, which have expanded considerably in recent years. Bilateral trade between the two is valued at about $10 billion, and Indian oil companies are involved in oil drilling operations here in Nigeria. India is also one of Nigeria's biggest buyers of oil. Indian firms are spread across the country, and I know that bilateral relations are very important to both countries. Now, I've been to India, not New Delhi, but other parts, and I see a lot of similarities amongst our people. They're all pleasant. They always answer a question with a smile. The weather is very much the same in most parts, and both share an entrepreneurial spirit. But India, like any other country, will not tolerate crime and criminality, and Nigeria will not tolerate that either, especially from foreigners, which is quite understandable. Now, we're not trying to give fuel to an already burning situation, but all we're saying is that Nigeria is a great country with great people who have great skills. We'll be right back. Welcome back. And the UN says it needs at least $1.3 billion to provide aid for 3.7 million people displaced by fighting in South Sudan. Ordinary citizens have been the hardest hit in the fight, and not just in death, but in trying to stay alive when you don't have a bullet going through you, that is. The UN sees the crisis as getting worse, as the ceasefire that was supposed to have come into effect late last week is yet to begin. And there are so many uncertainties, such as the possibility that more refugees will be added to the already growing number who will be needing more aid, and that's added pressure on the United Nations.
3.7 million people is just the number that is known for now, and as fighting continues, that number will likely increase. The UN is calling for aid from donor nations, but it has greater problems to think about, and that is the ceasefire. Riek Machar, the country's former vice president who remains in hiding, has accused the government of sabotaging peace talks and waging a campaign of ethnic cleansing. He also blamed the army for the continued violence. Talks resumed this week, but in the meantime, the African Union has sent an advanced team to monitor compliance with the ceasefire. They arrived on Sunday to set up a mission for this purpose. They will meet government officials and non-state organizations and conduct a reconnaissance of possible areas for deployment.
His agreement, signed on the 23rd of January.
Meanwhile, a key rebel demand has been partially granted by the government. 4 politicians detained following the alleged coup attempt will be allowed to join in this week's talks. 11 of them had been arrested at the time of the attempted coup, and the government says they will all be released at the end of initial investigations into their involvement.
And before we go, here are other stories up for discussion in diplomatic circles. Queen Elizabeth II and the Duke of Edinburgh will be making a 3-day state visit to France in June this year at the request of the French President François Hollande. She is expected to arrive in the country on the 5th, spend the following day in Normandy for the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings, and leave for Paris. The last time the Queen made such a visit to France was in April 2004. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian president is back to work following a 4-day sick leave in which doctors said he had a fever and problems breathing. He had been facing immense pressure from opposition protesters calling for his resignation because he did not accept a bailout from the European Union to help Ukraine's economy. The US and the EU discussed a possible lifeline for Ukraine at a security conference in Munich over the weekend. Russia, which is engaged in diplomatic rivalry with the EU over Ukraine, late last week said it is delaying the next installment of a $15 billion aid package. Finally, Al-Qaeda says it has nothing to do with the terrorist group Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, ISIS, which has been involved in the crisis in Syria. In an online statement, the group said ISIS was not a branch of Al-Qaeda. As many as 2,300 people are reported to have been killed in confrontations between ISIS's predominantly foreign fighters and rebels from both Western-backed and Islamist groups. British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Andrew Pocock, says Britain would continue to build partnerships with the next generation of Nigerian leaders. He made the remark at a reception organized by the British High Commission to welcome home 11 Chevening scholars. The Chevening Scholarships are the UK government's global scholarship program,
We're very proud to be doing that. And of course, returning to Nigeria makes this the sort of program
which makes awards to outstanding scholars with leadership potential from around the world to study postgraduate courses at universities in the United Kingdom.
the continuing success of this scheme, beginning its second 100 years. We will continue to push forward with it. We will continue to seek the best candidates. And may I remind you all that this is not just about intellectual or academic talent, although clearly that's a bedrock for selection. It's about a little more than that. It's about looking for people with genuine leadership dimension, people that have already shown, in whatever profession they're already in, that they've got what it requires to move on to the next stage of leadership. So what we hope we're doing with Nigeria is not just building a partnership with bright and gifted people in society, clearly that's happening, but we're trying to build a partnership with the next generation of Nigeria's leadership.
With an NGO I started in 2007, and we've been working in most of the hostile communities in Benue, Plateau, Taraba, Adama, and Kaduna states. We've been involved in training, research, advocacy, and documentation. So I have this opportunity with Chevening, living out my dream, and suddenly I find myself at the University of London. It's a worthwhile experience because I've had to interact with quite a number of people and learn new initiatives for conflict management and in terms of education, programming, and other issues.
And that's the program this week. Thanks for watching. Remember, you can reach us via email, Facebook, or Twitter. The addresses are on your screen. I am Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.